If you ask John Cooper whether he's been a motorcyclist all of his life, he might answer, not yet. For JC, motorcycling is still a work in progress. Starting as a timid street rider on a borrowed bike, he became a collector and restorer, moved into publishing and related business endeavors, and then embraced off-road riding and competition, vintage road racing, moto gyro road rallies, and currently long-distance touring. He still keeps a foot in those camps while searching for new roads to travel. That first ride was on a restored 1935 Rudge Ulster, a British single-cylinder 500 already 30 years old. It perhaps helped determine John's lifelong interest in riding and wrenching on vintage machinery. The Rudge was owned by a young friend whose mother had banished it from their Toronto residence, so it found temporary refuge at John's family home in Port Credit, Ontario. Back then, anyone with a driver's license could legally ride a motorcycle, so why not? Motorcycles offered a ratio of speed per dollar that was hard to resist. For choice of a personal bike, common sense was in short supply, and John's first motorcycle was a derelict 1947 JAP Speedway Racer. With no brakes, no gears or suspension, total loss lubrication, methanol fuel, and 45 horsepower on tap, it was surely a perfect beginner's machine. Mercifully, it was a non-runner, and grievous incidents were avoided. He next adopted a stripped-down 1947 Bellistic KSS that had deteriorated to the status of farm bike and was likely soon to become landfill. The price of $40 seemed in line with its condition. This period coincided with the formation of the Canadian Vintage Motorcycle Group. When John was invited by family friend Peter Gaggan to become one of the CVMG's founding members in the fall of 1968, John had participated in club activities ever since and was named as honorary life member. Jump forward a few years, and John, a reluctant student and graduate of what is now Ryerson University, was looking for a more satisfying career than a junior position in an engineering office. Chancing across an issue of Cycle Canada, a magazine still in its infancy, led him to respond to an ad for the position of editorial assistant. Submitting his first sample essay, then attending a 5-hour interview session with the founding editor and publisher George Kolesnikov. John signed on as assistant editor. He little knew what the next 30 years would hold, but within a few months he became the editor and part owner when the boss announced he was going to move on. John and two fellow employees, Marty Levesque and Jean-Pierre Belmont, became the owners of Cycle Canada and its sister publication Moto Journal in Montreal, under the banner of Brave Beaver Pressworks Limited. Fresh out of editorial boot camp and then a rookie owner of a struggling business, John found the early years a major challenge. The partners kept the enterprise afloat in a small market and an era of primitive information technology. They gathered and shared stories by telephone, courier, and post. To the accompaniment of clattering antique typewriters, it was a pre-digital age of carbon paper, tape, scissors, whiteout, and editing by pencil. Cumbersome and time-consuming at every stage. Yet they also quickly moved forward into new terrain, launching the first Cycle Canada motorcycle show at Exhibition Place in Toronto in 1977, before expanding into a national series that ran until 1985. They partnered with their old mentor George Kolesnikov and created the Great American Motorcycle Show series based out of Newport Beach, California. That was eventually sold to a competitor and nowadays is known as the Progressive International Motorcycle Shows and spans the United States of America from Washington, D.C. to Long Beach, California. There was even a foray into mainstream publishing with a magazine called Sports People and trade shows and publications for children's products and incentive marketing. John filled editorial and management role with most of these ventures as well, relinquishing the editor's chair at Cycle Canada after 15 years to Bruce Reeve, who built the magazine into one of the best anywhere. John contributed a monthly Vintage View column in an effort to record Canadian motorcycling history. And speaking of legendary, the long-running sport bike rally in Parry Sound, Ontario came aboard along with its founder Mike Maloney as the company grew through the 1990s and reached a long-hoped-for measure of success. TurboPress entered the new millennium on full boost, eventually attracting a buyout offers that culminated in a change of ownership in 2004 and retirement for the three partners. John and his wife Heather, with a grown son and daughter, now remain active in the community of motorcycling events that catch their fancy.